Permisa, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Acara Diplomatic Club hari ini sangat spesial karena ini untuk pertama kali kita mengundang Duta Besar dari negara sahabat yaitu Federasi Rusia, dan di samping saya adalah Ibu yang mulia Lyudmila Vorobieva. Selamat datang.
Terima kasih.
Ini kesempatan yang langka beliau bisa hadir pada acara ini di tengah waktu yang sibuk, dan beliau sudah lebih 5 tahun menjabat sebagai Duta Besar di Indonesia. Ini waktu yang cukup lama untuk ukuran Duta Besar. Excellency, thank you, and I'm very honored to have you for the Diplomatic Club. It is my also great honor that you are one of the eyewitness of my 4th-time festival in Moscow, the biggest festival organized by an embassy, because it happened in August and you always take leave on August. So it's my honor to have you there and also here. Hari ini kita akan berbincang-bincang mengenai hubungan Indonesia-Rusia. Saya mulai dengan pertanyaan tentang impresi beliau ketika sebelum ke Indonesia dan setelah 5 tahun di sini. Kemudian saya akan berbicara mengenai hubungan bilateral, dan juga ada mahasiswa kita dari sastra Rusia, dari UI, dan ada wartawan kuat.com. Setelah itu memang ya tidak fair juga kalau saya tidak menyentuh masalah Rusia Ukraina, dan saya minta beliau menjelaskan. So basically our topic today is about our bilateral relation. First, I would like to ask you about your first impression before you come to Russia. What do you think? Before you come to Indonesia, and what do you think about Indonesia? And what is your impression after more than 5 years in Indonesia? And then after that, we are talking about our bilateral relations. And then because we have students here, we also ask you about scholarship. Is there any improvement in the future about the number of Russian scholarship to Indonesian students? And then, of course, we are touching a bit on your relation, Russia-Ukraine relation, and then what do you expect after leaving Indonesia? So, first question is about impression. This is I experienced also. Unfortunately, when I was assigned to be ambassador in Russia, I don't have any much information about Russia. Of course, I got from foreign ministry, but it's very official. I tried to search articles at CSIS, but not many. So I went to Singapore and I bought a book about the history of Russia. So of course, I'm like other Indonesian citizens. When we heard about Russia, we are thinking of Hollywood. When Russia, I was on the other side.
It's a wrong image of Russia.
Right. Then when I first came to Russia, I was very surprised. That's I wrote in my book. On Sunday, the second day I was in Russia, in Moscow, my first priority is going to Red Square. Yeah, everybody want to go to Kremlin.
Yeah.
And on the way to Kremlin, I witnessed, a long queue. I saw senior citizens, father, mother, and young children. I asked my driver, "What are you doing?" I thought there is a big movie. I said, No, they're going to the museum. And then I realized that Russian very fond of culture, and it's come to my mind that I think my first approach will be organizing the Indonesian festival. On the 4 months after I was there, I first organized first festival, and surprisingly, it's very successful. So that's my impression. And of course, I had long, good impression about Russia after living for more than 4 years. Now, it's your turn. What do you think about Indonesian before you arrive in, or have you been to Indonesia before? And then, what is your impression after for more than 5 years?
5 years,
Okay.
yeah.
No.
Thank you so much, Pawahid, first of all, for inviting me. And I would like to mention that I was in Moscow in the ministry when Pawahid was ambassador of Indonesia. And the wonderful thing he did was with these festivals. As you mentioned, Pawahid, I was present at all the 4 opening days of the festival in different capacities, and every time it was just wonderful, and it attracted so much attention from curiosity from people in Moscow. More than 100,000 every time came for the festival, and I hope that it will be continued
Hope so.
sometimes, and I hope that we can do something similar in Jakarta. It was also my intention to have a festival, a Russian festival or Moscow festival in Jakarta, but COVID intervened, and unfortunately these plans have been halted. On the impression of Indonesia, you know, I served and lived 30 years in Southeast Asia. My parents were diplomats. I grew up in Thailand. And then with them, I went to Laos. I speak both Thai and Lao language. Then on my own, I had 3 postings in Laos, then in Thailand, and then I was ambassador to Malaysia.
All right, at least you know Malay, you know?
Yes, but Indonesia is very different. And it was a great discovery for me. And, you know, I asked when my minister said that I will be appointed as ambassador to Indonesia, I actually expected to be appointed ambassador to Laos. I speak the language. At that time, I was the only lead ambassador and the minister in the ministry. And I said, why are you appointing me second time to a Muslim country? He didn't answer. But I can tell you it was a present from God and from my bosses. And it was love at first sight. And I'm still in love after more than 5 years here. Because Indonesia is just a wonderful country. I was here only once as a tourist in 2006. I was at that time posted in Bangkok, and we came with my family just for a couple of days. We went to...
So the first time to Indonesia, yeah?
It was 2006. It was the first and only time. But it's not enough, of course, a couple. It was lovely, but it was not enough. But when I came to Indonesia, first, you're a great country. Indonesia is a great country. And people in Indonesia feel that they're part of the great country. So that's why they're very open to the world. They have nothing to... you know, to prove to anyone. You're part of the great country. Indonesia has a great potential. Indonesia has a great history, culture, traditions. But the most impressive are people, of course. The friendliness, the openness, how just, you know, ordinary people, they want to make you happy. And it's a very sincere feeling. They don't want anything from you, you know, just to make you happy. And that makes Indonesia just a wonderful place to be. I haven't heard from anyone who served or lived in Indonesia that they don't like Indonesia. Everyone likes Indonesia. Of course, the problem is that there is not enough information, of course. I mean, you know, people of the generation of my parents, they're very much aware of Indonesia. When my late father, he passed away last year, heard that I will be appointed to Indonesia, the first thing he did to me, he sang Rayuan Pulau Kelapa to me.
It's very, very popular song.
In Russian language.
In Russian,
Because the story is that when President Sukarno was about to visit Soviet Union at that time, Russia, there was a documentary made on Indonesia for Soviet people, Russian people to know more. And the soundtrack was Rayuan Pulau Kelapa. And it was translated into Russian and it became immensely popular.
You know, this is very interesting. When I was in Abu Dhabi, the ambassador of Vietnam, his wife, was graduated in Russia. And she sang a song about the Rayuan Pulau Kelapa in Russian.
In Russian, of course. Another thing that my parents...
And you know, one more. I was asked to officially open the veteran tournament, badminton tournament, Sapli badminton in Sochi. And after raising the flag, you know, I thought they're going to sing like, you know, the Russian Indonesian song, but they sing the Rayuan Pulau Kelapa.
You see, so
it's very famous.
It became very, very famous in Russia. And also my parents, when President Sukarno came first time to the Soviet, they were students. They were studying international relations in Moscow. And they were asked, as many other students, to go and to greet President Sukarno in the streets with the car. And they were, you know, waving Indonesian flags and greeting President Sukarno and singing Rayuan Pulau Kelapa.
Among the elder generation, both in Indonesia and Russia, during the Sukarno-Khrushchev era, that's, I think, one of the milestone of our relations.
Absolutely.
We always think that we have also traditional relation with Russian. When I was in Moscow just 1 week, there was a ceremony at RUDN, the People Friendship University. I don't have much literacy at the moment. And then suddenly I was asked to speak representing ASEAN. I was very new. I went not the other ambassador. No, we want you. So I mentioned about the Khrushchev Sukarno relation personally, and suddenly the rector of RUDN take the microphone and explaining about it was translated to my staff, and he said, you know, that this university was once launched at Gajah Mada University where I studied, 1960 if not mistaken. Yeah, so here also the elder generation they still remember the good relation. I think at that time, especially during the when we are going to take back the Iran Barat, you know, we are regarded the biggest military power in Southern Hemisphere. I think thanks to the Soviet Union.
Actually, we helped, And I don't know, the young people here, do they know what our country built in Jakarta? Tugu Tani?
Yeah, Tugu Tani.
Gelora Bung Karno? Rumah Sakit Persahabatan? It all has been built by our country.
And you can explain about Bung Karno. I think we have similarity with Skilnok.
Yes, it's also quite an interesting story. Also, you know, has
Skolniki, right?
Luzhniki. It has also direct relation with our embassy. Because when President Sukarno, on one of his visits, he visited our country four times. He delivered a public speech in Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow. It is still there. It's the biggest stadium in Moscow. And he liked it so much that he asked Khrushchev, our leader at that time, to help Indonesia to build something similar in Jakarta, for Jakarta to be able to host the second Asian Games in 1962. Khrushchev agreed, and Gelora Bung Karno was built. It's an exact copy of Luzhniki Stadium. Of course, both stadiums have been renovated, so now they're a little bit different, but basically they're absolutely same project, same amount of people they can accommodate. And the funniest thing, you know what, that the builders team, they have built some temporary, who came from our country, they have built some temporary compound for them to live in 1958. Our embassy staff still lives in this compound, so nothing is more permanent in this world as a temporary. So it's an exact copy of Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow. So not only that, actually Krakatau Steel was founded by our country. We built a road in Kalimantan,
Palangkaraya. Actually, Sukarno at the time planned to be the new capital. I went there and I saw the boulevard still the best road in Palangkaraya.
But unfortunately, the young people are not very much aware of that.
You have to read more books about history.
For instance, you ask average Russian Indonesia, you say Indonesia, probably he will not or she will not say Sukarno, they will say Bali. But Indonesia is so much more than Bali, and I think actually now with our current geopolitical situation and people in our country not able to visit, say, European countries, there is more and more interest towards Asia, towards ASEAN, and of course Indonesia.
Yeah, you have new update about the Russian. I think there is a report in Indonesian paper that in February, if not mistaken, Russian is the second biggest tourist visiting Bali, Indonesia, mostly in Bali, of course.
Yes. We have came to the pre-COVID numbers of Russian tourists going to Bali.
Because before that, not even in the Big Ten numbers.
And of course, we hope that more Indonesians will be coming to our country. And actually, there are a lot of Indonesian tourists visiting not only Moscow and St. Petersburg, but for instance, Kazan. Kazan is the center of capital of Tatarstan, which is not an independent state, as some people think.
It's called Republic, you know. But
it's called Republic, but it's actually it's a province in Russia. It's a region that is predominantly Muslims. And Kazan is a very beautiful city where you can see this combination of Islam and Christianity, and
this is very interesting. When I was in Moscow, it turned out that there are many Umrah, what do you call it? Umrah pass program organized by the travel agencies. So instead of going to other Middle Eastern countries like Dubai, you know, with part of UAE, of course, and then Oman and so on, Turkey, instead they went to number one, Moscow is a must visit is the Grand Mosque, obviously opened by President Putin. And Erdogan. You know? And number two, they went to St. Petersburg, where there was
the Blue Mosque.
And I met the third generation of Mufti there, and he told me about the role of Sukarno. And I still remember, when I wrote in my book also. And third is Kazan. In Kazan, there's this, you know, this is the center of the Islamic, kingdom in the past. And there is the biggest Quran ever made with paper. You know? The paper comes from Italy. You know? So this is a very interesting place, you know, for Indonesians to have Umrah pass. So this is a good development.
And last year, actually, we've celebrated 1,100 year of Islam in Russia. So Islam came to Russia a long time before it came to Southeast Asia.
Earlier.
And in Russia, we have around 30 million Muslims, which is about more than 20% of our population. And those people are not, we have migrants, of course, we do have migrants, but most of these people are Russian nationals, Russian citizens whose ancestors have lived here in this territory for centuries. And Tatarstan is a perfect example of how people of different religions can coexist.
And one of the advanced province also.
Also very advanced, very developed industrially. They have technology, like smart city technologies. They produce oil. So
it's like Silicon Valley. What did you call it? The outer.
It's Yelabuga. Yelabuga, and they have a special economic zone. Now there is a speed train between Moscow and Kazan.
Already?
Yes, so it's developing very quickly.
So people here is confused between Kazan and Kazakhstan.
No. It's of course, with Kazakhstan, we used to be one country, the Soviet Union, but after 1991, we all became independent countries. But Tatarstan is part of Russia. Because Stan, actually, it's Sanskrit. Sanskrit. It means territory, country. So that's why Kazakhstan, Tatarstan, Uzbekistan,
Dagestan.
Istana. It's the same root. Istana. It's some place. Istana.
Okay. So actually, I wrote in my books that when I visited Dagestan, I was the first Indonesian ambassador visiting Dagestan.
Wow.
And I was escorted by the local minister of religions. I went to the marketplace, and they knew about Indonesia, you know.
Of course.
And many of them gave me gifts like honey with all this, you know. I can't remember what they call that. And so that I bought another bag, you know, to go back to Moscow because people just as friendly as us. And I was told that actually Islam came to Dagestan 10 years after the demise of Prophet Muhammad, just long before they came to Southeast Asia. Okay, we can talk hours and hours about this topic, and I'm very excited on that. You know. But now I touch on the bilateral relations between Russia and Indonesia, and actually when I was there also we are working out on the strategic partnership. This is the highest level of agreement between countries, and it should be signed by both leaders. In this case, President Putin and President Jokowi. But of course, because of the COVID and all those things, still in the process. But the idea is already there. I think it is a matter of time how we can arrange a meeting between the two leaders. So, could you update on that issue?
First of all, I would like to say that in Russia, we see Indonesia as our key partner, not only in Southeast Asia, but in the Asia Pacific as well. We don't like the Indo-Pacific, because actually it's, ASEAN Indo-Pacific is quite different from what the West is promoting, because what West is promoting is totally anti-Chinese. So we prefer to. And where is Asia in this Indo-Pacific? You know, so what's wrong with Asia? So in Asia Pacific as well, and there are various reasons to that. First of all, of course, the historically friendly relations that we enjoy between our two countries, the potential that we have for cooperation, because our economies are complementary. You have things that we don't have. We have things and technologies that Indonesia don't have. So we can exchange for mutual benefit. But also, I think we share common views, our views on what is happening in the world, on the global agenda, and the values. And that's economy is, of course, very important for bilateral relations, but this kind of common values is also very important. And the testimony of this is the way we interact in international forums and organizations, in the UN and other international organizations, or how we interacted during the presidency of Indonesia in G20. We're very appreciative of what Indonesia has done as the G20 chair, despite the immense pressure. And our president has sent a congratulatory message to President Joko Widodo, saying that we admire the efforts of Indonesia to make it work, despite the all the pressure of the Western world to exclude Russia, to concentrate on geopolitical issues instead of discussing economic and financial issues that are really relevant. So Indonesia,
and that's the main idea of G20.
Absolutely. So Indonesia did a wonderful job, and also as the ASEAN chair, Russia is a strategic partner with the ASEAN. So our Minister of Foreign Affairs has visited Indonesia 4 times in the last 2 years.
Make you very busy.
So actually that shows how important Indonesia is for our country. And our relations have been developing in a very positive way, especially since Ibu Megawati Soekarno Putri went to Moscow in 2003. And since then, our relationship have been on the rise, even despite the present geopolitical situation. For instance, last year, our trade turnover has increased by around 30%.
Surprisingly, during the difficult time. Could you mention how big is the current rate?
Last year it was, we have different ways to do, but it's around 4 billion. We still haven't reached the goal set up by our president in 2016 to reach the 5 billion. But we hope that we are somewhere
I think
near.
once the FTA between Indonesia and Euro-Asian Economic Union established, I think we are very optimistic to increase the number, because we look at Vietnam, for example. Vietnam is the one, of course not Singapore, but Vietnam is number one. And I once explained to my trade minister, there is no way we can compete with Vietnam because they signed all the FTA, So many of our products, like Kopiko, for example, they come through Vietnam and then go to Moscow. So then that's why the trade minister at the time, Pak Enggar, visited Moscow, and the start of the beginning of negotiation FTA between Indonesia and AIU.
Well, for your information, Russia cannot have a free trade agreement bilaterally, Russia-Indonesia, because Russia is part of the Eurasian Economic Union. So
it's like ASEAN,
or like European Union. So the Eurasian Economic Union comprises 5 countries: Russia, Belarus, Armenia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. So from our part, it's 5 countries and Indonesia. And we started officially the negotiation process in December last year. We had already 2 rounds of negotiations. Part of the agreement has been already settled. So we will have the 3rd round soon on expert level. And our experts are quite optimistic that we can complete maybe in 2 years.
As you mentioned, I think the characteristics of our trade relations, we are not competitors. We need each other. And I think That's why I always explain to my Russian colleagues now. And now they start coming to Indonesia. I'm very also busy. I'm advisor to some of the Russian companies here to go to the Indonesian market. Now, I heard that Russia is also interested to invest in the new capital, especially on IT. I know Moscow, surprisingly, is one of the most safest city in the world. But if you look at the
why surprising?
Pardon?
You said surprising.
Because
why?
when I was here in Indonesia, what I heard about Russia, but Moscow, is from the Hollywood movie.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't try to assess Russia just judging by Hollywood.
That's why you have to visit and you see yourself. Although in terms of the global peace index is number 100 something, but in reality we watched the World Cup 2018. This is only one incident. The taxi driver, they run out of this, the barrier in the street. But actually, he was working long hours because that's the first time, but not because of terrorist attack and such. And it's very peaceful, during. I was there and I talked to many Indonesians also who visited. This is one of the best, and peaceful World Cup. So, and of course also, this is because I have to talk to ordinary common people. There is one lady, she's expert on IT, and she was invited to have the international Olympiad, something like that, in Sochi.
Yeah.
And the first question is it safe? And then number two, is it okay if I'm wearing a hijab? I said, no problem, because 24% of Russian, approximately, the same number as Malaysian are Muslim. I visited many mosques. During President Putin time, there are more 8,000 mosques throughout Russia. Maybe in this case you can explain about Islam and Russia and I was taught, I read in a paper that it belongs to, obviously recognized as one of the heritage in Russia.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been already talking about the history and that Islam was always present in Russia. Of course, during the Soviet times, religions were not forbidden, but not encouraged. But after the collapse of the Soviet Union, actually, we've seen a renaissance of religion, Islam. I'm a Russian Orthodox, Christianity. So the number of mosques have increased tremendously after 1991. And we have, for instance, in Moscow, we have 2 million Tatars. And they're in Moscow alone, yes.
Because we have Tatar mosque in front of our embassy.
You see, so, and we have many mixed marriages, for instance. I can tell even in our embassy, he left already. One of our diplomats, he's a Tatar, he's Muslim, and he's married to a Russian lady. She's Russian Orthodox. No problem. So, because in our country, you don't have to do a religious marriage. You can do civil marriage. If you don't wish so, just civil marriage, it's okay. No one will ask you what really. If you wish to do a religion, you can do that. But if you don't want, it's your. No one will ask you. So they decided if they have children, the boys will be Muslims. If they have girls, girls will be Russian Orthodox. They have 2 girls so far.
But you don't admit same-sex marriage, just like in Indonesia also.
No, absolutely. I mentioned that we share same views and values. This LGBT agenda so aggressively promoted by the West, we don't agree with that. Our position is we're not homophobic. It's not that whatever you do, it's your business. Whatever you do in your country or in your home, it's your business. You cannot promote it as normal. You cannot have propaganda.
But it's also against Islam, actually, the LGBT.
And it's against the Orthodox, Russian Orthodox. We were very much criticized in the West and accused of violating human rights when our president signed a law forbidding propaganda of LGBT and especially access of children to this propaganda. So
Here, actually, you are more advanced than us.
Because our logic is, okay, you are 18 when you're an adult. Do what you wish. But when you're a child, you still don't have the experience enough to decide. So children shouldn't be exposed to that. And also, people shouldn't be exposed to this aggressive propaganda. No one will be penalized, or it's not criminalized. You do what you want, but you shouldn't promote it as something normal. That's the logic.
Okay.
If you want, I have my opinion why the West is doing that.
Okay. Now on
maybe we will talk about it later.
On the new capital.
On the new capital, yes.
Because initially, Russia was keen to build the railroad, in Kalimantan.
Yes, but unfortunately, the project was not implemented. It was actually a road to transport coal, and the change of prices in coal, it prevented this project to start because it became not viable commercially. But actually, our companies are ready to consider participating in infrastructure building in the new capital, and also the smart cities technology. As Wahid mentioned, Moscow, Kazan also is a very smart city. In Moscow, you have Wi-Fi everywhere. You go into a bus, Wi-Fi. You go into underground, Wi-Fi. We have so many electrical buses right now. So all these technologies are very much used in Moscow.
The Moscow transport is one of the best. Now, I read that at least about 6 to 8 million people, going with MRT. And despite the huge, size of Moscow, but transportation is, I think, quite manageable.
It's the advantage we had, and it's one of the oldest in the world. We call it metro. It's underground, and we started building it in the 30s last century. So since the, and as Wahid knows, some of the stations are like museums. Very beautiful,
crafted.
Very with statues, with paintings. There is one, one station. Of course, it's called Revolution Place, Revolution Square, where they have statues of border guards with dogs. So, and next to this station is Moscow University. So, when there are exams at the university, students go to the station and rub the nose of the dog, and they believe it will bring good luck during the exam. So if you go there, you see the nose is very shiny because everyone will touch the nose of the dog. So and it keeps expanding. Actually, recently the mayor of Moscow has inaugurated some of the new stations, and you can reach any place in Moscow through metro.
And the good thing, I think, the Moscow government still manage the old train. A bit noisy, but it's very historical. Of course, in the outer part they have very modern.
Now they have the more modern. They keep some of the historical ones with all the inscriptions, but it's more of a vintage thing. Now the new trains are very modern. Yes,
right, especially. I drove to the outer one.
The traffic is very bad in Moscow. Jakarta, people in Jakarta are very proud of their traffic jams.
Here,
Moscow is also. But what people are doing now, they are leaving their cars in the parking lots and they take the underground to go to the center. And it's very convenient. I live in the center of Moscow. I practically don't use the car. I just either I walk or I take the underground to go anywhere.
Okay, Excellency, we have here a student from University of Indonesia. They bring Russian studies. They asked me before about the scholarship from Russia, which I think the number keep increasing. And when I was there, there are about 600 or 700 students studying in different parts of the country. Even I met them studying in Tom State, in the middle of Sahara, like Sahara, Siberia. And then I was surprised. We have some students in Arkhangels, the northern part of Russia, also Vladivostok. It took me more than 10 hours flying direct from Moscow to Vladivostok with 7 different time zones.
Yeah,
Usually, I went to Moscow to Vladivostok for conference 3 days. I got jet lag for 1-2 days. Then after the 3 days, I recovered. Then I have to back to
Moscow. Yeah.
Different jet lag. Now, could you explain to us, to our students, because I told them actually, unless you stay in the country, you are not, mastering Russian well, because relation between language and culture is very close. So I suggest them also to take not in English, because they offer also English degree, like High School of Economics, where my son studied, because he's lazy to study Russian because it's too difficult. But usually they very good system to train the new overseas student studying Russian. I think 8 months, around 8 months is intensive. And then after that, you can take degree. And I suggest them to study other sciences, social sciences that could be useful in Indonesia. So could you explain to us the platform and how many roughly every year you offer scholarship for Indonesian?
The number of scholarships that Russia provides is increasing. When I came here 5 years ago, it was 161. Now it's 300.
Oh, 300 already?
Yeah, 300 per year. And the number...
double.
And if there is demand, we can increase, of course. And I would like to tell you that the quality of education in Russia is very high. And especially we are very strong in technical issues, mathematics, physics, but not only that, international relations, social studies, communication, IT, of course, yes. So Indonesian young people are very welcome. All the information is in our cultural center in Jakarta. Now it's under renovation, unfortunately, but soon it will reopen and it will be accessible again. Well, I strongly recommend to take the courses in Russian, of course. Because Russian language, you will have an additional bonus of also speaking Russian. Of course, Russian language is not an easy one. They yes, they say that it's one of the most difficult. But you mentioned that there is a relation between culture and language, and of course there is a relation between mentality and the language, because the language reflects the mentality. So it will be much easier for if you study Russian language to understand Russians and Russia, not to just watch Hollywood movies. And also, but Russian language maybe seem to you so far away from Bahasa. It's not that far away, because we share something in common: Sanskrit. Sanskrit.
Like dua. Here.
I always ask my colleagues in the embassy who study Bahasa if they know this connection. I will tell you one of it. Even Bahasa is, we have the same word in Russian.
What was it?
Basnya.
Basnya.
It's something you tell. It has a little bit different meaning, but it's also something you tell. For instance, you have this word desa.
Desa.
It's a Sanskrit word, because in many languages the word desa exists, like Bangladesh. Desh is also, it means territory. In Indonesian, it means village.
Tacha,
No, not Tacha.
It's different?
Different. And for Bangladesh, for instance, or Uttar Pradesh, territory of a Bangla, I speak Thai language. It's Pratet, but it also means territory, country. In Russian language, we have this word. We use it every day. It has a slightly different meaning, but it also related. Здесь, here, this place. Все, desa, this place. You see, we speak Sanskrit, both practically. And there are many words that are similar in Bahasa and in Russian language. So it may make the life of the Indonesian students a little bit easier. But seriously speaking, not only
there's also Sundanese, eta.
Eta.
Eta is also.
Eta in Russian, eta. Also Sanskrit, actually. Not only the quality of education is high, but also we have this experience of having foreign students. For instance, in the neighboring countries, I had 3 postings in Laos. President of Laos, he's a graduate from Russian university.
Right.
He speaks Russian.
Okay.
Minister of Foreign Affairs of Laos
speak Russian.
studied together. We studied together at the same university, MGIMO. Yeah. In Vietnam, 10,000 graduates from Russian, Soviet Russian universities. In Myanmar, 10,000s of people graduated. Yeah.
That's why, before I left, actually, I called on Vice Minister Margulong, I mentioned about this.
He's now our ambassador to China.
To China, and he was surprised, the number of Indonesian students. Okay, I will increase the number. Thanks God, now already increased.
Yeah, increased now 800. 800
yes.
Indonesian, but of course it's not enough. We can accommodate more, and we see that there is demand, of course. So I hope the number of scholarship that we provide will be growing.